If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories. He ran, his heart pounding against his ribs like a drumbeat of doom. The explosion was imminent, a deafening roar that would swallow everything. His only thought was her. He pushed her, a desperate shove to get her clear, just as a blinding white light and a wave of searing heat consumed him. That was it. The end. Or so he thought. He woke up with a gasp, the scent of sandalwood and old parchment filling his nose instead of acrid smoke. His hands weren't his own. They were larger, calloused, adorned with a heavy, unfamiliar ring. A woman's panicked voice cut through the haze. "My lord, you've been unconscious for 3 days." The doctors were at their wits' end. He blinked, trying to focus on the face looming over him. It was her. The same eyes, the same curve of her lips, but her hair was styled in an ancient fashion. Her clothes were layers of silk he'd only seen in historical dramas. "My lord," she repeated, her voice laced with a strange mix of concern and fear. "This is just the beginning of a story that will twist everything you think you know about love, destiny, and second chances. What would you do if you died saving the one you love, only to wake up centuries in the past, married to her, but as a complete stranger?" Stick around, because this tale is about to get incredibly complicated. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you won't want to miss a single second of this journey. Alright, so where were we? He's just woken up, 300 years in the past, in the body of this woman's husband. And from the look on her face, this husband wasn't exactly a Prince Charming. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry, and the words that came out felt foreign in his mouth. He was in the body of a nobleman, a powerful figure from a bygone era. And the woman he had just died for, she was his wife, a woman trapped in a seemingly unhappy, arranged marriage with the man whose body he now inhabited. He could see the apprehension in her eyes. She was scared of him, of the man he was supposed to be. He quickly pieced together his new reality from hushed conversations between servants and the fearful glances his own wife cast his way. The original owner of this body, a duke, was known for his cold demeanor and ruthless ambition. He was a man feared by many, and apparently loved by none, least of all his own wife. She was a political pawn in his game, a beautiful bird in a gilded cage. Now, he was trapped in this powerful but despised man's life, with the woman he loved viewing him as her tormentor. His modern soul was at war with his historical identity. His first challenge wasn't navigating court politics or learning how to wield a sword. It was convincing her that he wasn't the monster she thought he was. He started with small gestures. He dismissed the servants who watched her every move, giving her a privacy she'd never had. He remembered she loved a specific type of wildflower he'd once seen in a picture on her desk in the future. He had the castle gardens filled with them. At first, she was suspicious. Each act of kindness was met with a guarded, questioning stare. She thought it was another one of her husband's cruel games, a new way to manipulate her. The more he tried to be the man he was, the more she retreated, trapped by the memory of the man he appeared to be. He had memories that weren't his own, flashes of the Duke's life, his cold ambition, his lonely childhood. It helped him understand the man he had become, but it didn't excuse his cruelty. He realized he couldn't just erase the past. He had to atone for it, even though the sins weren't his. He started by using the Duke's power for good. He intervened in a land dispute, siding with the poor farmers instead of the wealthy landowners his predecessor would have favored. He opened the castle's granaries during a food shortage, an act of charity the original Duke would have scoffed at. Word of the changed Duke began to spread. The staff whispered, the common folk were cautiously optimistic, and the royal court was buzzing with intrigue. His political rivals saw it as a sign of weakness, a crack in the armor of the ruthless man they knew. They started to probe, to test his resolve, but they weren't dealing with the old Duke anymore. They were dealing with a modern man who understood strategy in a way they couldn't comprehend. He used his future knowledge subtly, anticipating their moves, outmaneuvering them not with brute force, but with intellect and foresight that seemed almost supernatural to them. But his true battle was at home. One evening, he found her in the library, a place the old Duke had forbidden her from entering. She was reading, a small, defiant act of rebellion. He didn't scold her. Instead, he walked over to the shelves and pulled out a book of poetry. "I always thought you'd like this one," he said softly, placing it on the table beside her. He remembered her mentioning the author once, in that other life that felt like a distant dream. She looked up, her eyes wide with shock. It was a small detail, something so personal the cold Duke could never have possibly known. For the first time, he saw a flicker of something other than fear in her eyes. It was curiosity. That night marked a turning point. She began to observe him, to test him with small questions about the past, about things only her husband would know. He failed most of these tests, offering vague answers or admitting he didn't remember. He explained it away as a consequence of his 3-day unconsciousness, claiming the fever had muddled his memory. It was a flimsy excuse, but it was all he had. Yet, his failures to remember the bad times, coupled with his new, gentle nature, slowly started to break down her walls. She started to talk to him, not as a wife to a husband, but as one cautious person to another. She told him about her love for painting, a passion the old Duke had dismissed as a frivolous waste of time. The next day, he had an entire room converted into an art studio for her, complete with the finest paints and canvases. He found himself falling in love with her all over again, but in a different way. He was falling for the strong, resilient woman who had endured so much, the woman who was slowly, cautiously, beginning to bloom under his care. He learned about her dreams, her fears, and the quiet strength she possessed. It was a deeper connection than the one he'd had in the future, which was cut short before it could truly begin. But his secret was a ticking time bomb. How could he build a life, a real love, on such a monumental lie? What would happen if she ever found out he wasn't her husband, but the spirit of a man from the future inhabiting his body? Just as things were starting to feel hopeful, a new complication arose. A letter arrived bearing the royal seal. The king, who was the Duke's old ally in many a ruthless scheme, was growing suspicious of his change of heart. He was being summoned to the capital. This was a dangerous game. At court, he would be surrounded by people who knew the old Duke intimately, his habits, his secrets, his cruelties. One wrong move, one slip of the tongue could expose him, and the punishment for whatever crime they would invent for him would be severe. But refusing the summons was not an option. It would be seen as an act of treason. He had to go, and to his surprise, his wife insisted on accompanying him. "They will see your new nature as weakness," she said, her voice firm. "You will need an ally, someone who can attest to your changed disposition. And I am your wife. My place is by your side." It was the first time she had willingly claimed that title, the first time she had truly stood with him as a partner. It filled him with both hope and dread. Hope, because they were finally becoming a team. Dread, because he was leading her into a viper's nest, all while hiding the most important secret of his existence. The journey to the capital would be a test of his wits, his courage, and the fragile trust he had just begun to build with the woman he had already died for once. He was determined not to lose her again. What a cliffhanger, right? The story is just getting started. Imagine trying to navigate a treacherous royal court while pretending to be your complete opposite, all with the woman you love by your side, who is only just starting to trust you. If you're as hooked as I am and need to know what happens next, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We post continuations and new stories like this all the time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next part.